Hey everyone, hope you're having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel is Finding Value. Today we're going to do our daily technical analysis, updated commodities, work our way through the dollar, yields, precious metals, and commodities ETFs that I follow. I'll interject my financial opinions as we go through it. And if you need help with anything, check out finding-value.com. That's where I dive deeper into all of these sectors, topics, looking for potential investment opportunities. And what I try to focus on and what I share with everyone in the community is those risk reward opportunities. This weekend, I'll show you some of the magic special sauce that I look for in the charts and maybe even the fundamentals too, and go over the strategy so everyone understands it a little bit better. So that is something I will touch on this weekend. I know there's some people who also ask some questions about some of these things with portfolio positions and strategy. Let's dive in there. Let's take a look, see what's going on today. We're going to start with the dollar, and the dollar a little bit weaker, and we do have mixed yields. So what I'm looking for is I'm looking to see if this thing is going to bolt higher through resistance, or if we're going to eventually roll over. The big deal is if we roll over in the dollar, well, all of our commodities are priced in dollars. And that's going to push or pull, however you want to look at it, commodities higher. So that is an important thing and metric to look at. DXY and its absolute value, that's not really what we're looking for. We're just looking for relative valuation with DXY. We did see stronger yields. The 2 years up 1.61%. That still looks good to go higher. Does not look good to go lower. And right now, it is continuing its way up towards that resistance line that we broke back in the summer of 2024. So that looks good to go higher. We've got the 10-year continuing on up. Momentum is still to the upside. I have not seen a clear turn yet. It tried to turn yesterday, and then we've got buying pressure today holding it up. We'll see what this battle between the buyers and sellers look like over the next week or two. We also have the 30-year above support. So this is the support level that I'm seeing here, that trend line. We are above it, and we do have a candlestick that came down and touched support and came back up. So that still looks good and well poised above its support level. It doesn't look like it's ready to rip down through it yet. TYX TNX ratio, we are still heading lower. What does this mean? The curve is inverting. It's inverted. What is going on here? How is this possible that the curve is continuing to invert? Now, this isn't a huge tailwind behind gold and silver and precious metals. This almost is like we are going to reignite inflation to some degree, and the market condition maybe isn't primed for a move higher yet. We'll see. We'll have to wait and see. But this is a little bit surprising. Bond price is up a little bit today. We're at a whole bunch of resistance, and we'll see if we can punch through all this stuff. It's a lot of resistance, though. If we go lower, rates generally go up, and if we go higher, rates go down. The 2 and 10, now this is interesting here. And I'm trying to figure out what to make of it, but we're actually breaking the downtrend line and wanting to re-invert the curve, which is interesting because we're breaking through that downtrend, and this looks good to go higher. You've got the big buying pressure, the small selling pressure. You know what this looks like? It looks very similar to some of the oil, just inverted, like flipped the other way. So it's flipped this way coming down. That's oil, and this is flipped the other way around, and this is your 2 and 10 yield curve. And I'll show you that later in the clip here. But that's breaking to the upside. Now, here's the weird part. Most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, when you get to these levels, they generally fall. I don't know if we were exactly inverted here, but we were close to inversion for a lot of this. Then we finally inverted and then fell. Inverted, fell, inverted, and then fell. And somehow we are magically just holding this in the air, and it looks like it wants to go back up. We'll see. We'll see what happens, and we'll see if this reinverts over the next few weeks. But right now, it's breaking that down for us. Gold continuing higher, does not care, does not care. We're at about $2,800 an ounce, and that still looks good to continue higher. Gold has all of the market conditions behind it. Well, not all of them, because that TYX TNX ratio has been pulling back, and the 2 and 10 looks like it wants to reinvert. How is gold still ripping it? Good question, guys. I'm glad that you caught that, from earlier charts here. Well, I think the trend's in motion, and that motion is going to keep going. It's going to keep going. Even if some of these market conditions change a little bit, when we see gold rip, it starts to rip and it gains momentum. Silver coming back down about 1.5%. It's holding on here. We've got some sort of, pennant formation going on. It's okay. Don't get too worried. What I always remind myself is, where are we? Bigger picture, we're on top of everything. We are ready to go up. So don't get shaken out with these volatile days that we got these past couple of days. Just sit tight, be patient. It's going to come. Silver looks really good. And gold is our leader, and it continues higher. Platinum also getting kicked in the nutsack here, right at support resistance. It's acting as resistance right there coming through, and we just got a shot to the nuts there. So that is some resistance that we just hit, and it was a big selling pressure day, down about 3.6%. We'll see if there's follow through with this. We've got palladium too, also getting hit pretty hard, down 5.93, but that is above support in this one. So that's all above support. Could we pull back and come back and do a retest at 1075? We could. We very well could. We saw the turn. This looks a little bit more natural, where we come on up. You see the turn with the wick at the top, and then we usually don't see a blowout move, but it's pulled on back, and hopefully we can pull back with some small candlesticks coming back here and just sit right in this area. Good buy point for a longer term investor if we do get a retest down here. And with platinum also getting rejected, we'll see it if this loops back around and continues to make higher lows with platinum. GDX is slightly lower. Not a bad looking candlestick, though. That doesn't look like it's ready to just rip lower. GDXJ slightly lower, but we got a nice little, buying pressure towards the end of the day. And then we got SILJ down a little bit with buying pressure at the end of the day. They don't look too bad. We just kind of popped out of this thing, came back, maybe did a retest perhaps. But these are still well poised, and they could very well go higher. Obviously, we need some of the metals to work with us a little bit. We can't have silver going down 1.5%, 2%, and then the silver miners are more likely going to go down in that situation. So everything still looks okay. It doesn't look like we're topping out, at least not yet, and I don't see that here in the short term. XAU to gold ratio did pull back a little bit. Again, we're just kind of chopping sideways. Maybe this has something to do with the November 5th elections. I don't know. Maybe they are afraid that silver, is going to rip, and they don't want it to rip. Maybe they're holding it down for a period of time. But this is coming from incredibly low levels. It's completely well composed. I don't see huge red candlesticks here. And whenever they're small like this, it generally is a precursor to a much larger move. So I think this looks fantastic. Probably lots of good entry points in some of the gold and silver mining companies. Now, when you start looking at these charts longer and longer and longer, there are some negatives, because when you look at the charts, you want to nail bottoms, and you become a lot less likely to buy things that are somewhat up. And they could be up 100% off the bottom. But there could still be miles of runway ahead of that thing to go higher, which we do have in gold and silver mining companies. But we are not at the exact bottom for a lot of companies that are gold and silver mining companies. They are coming off bottoms and moving on up. Crude oil up 2.44%. I don't think they had a chance at holding this thing down. I think they tried. Early in the day, you can see Sunday, they gapped it down here. Big, huge gap. And then you look in again, we get these big selling pressure gap down lower on Tuesday there. And then we started to come on back. But we have a huge deficit this week where we ate through inventories by 9 million barrels. Of course, it's going to go up. And right now, we are pretty undervalued in terms of our commercial inventory levels and where the price is today. And I do think that we might have to work with crude oil, moving sideways for a little bit until the elections are done. But we have some pretty cheap gas where I'm at this time. But it looks good. It doesn't look bad. It looks like it's holding steady. TTF gas down a little bit. We had a pretty big breakout run here, and we've just been pulling back from that run. Everything still looks fine on the longer term. Just be patient, guys. Be patient. Kind of looks like a big double bottom here. We're just working our way on up. We've got natural gas in America down a little bit today. We're up against this resistance area, and we're just on top of it, right at resistance. We'll see if we can put something together and run. You can see these highs are coming up, or lows are coming up. So that looks good. Boy, XOP, yeah, you know me, up a little bit today, about 1%, and there's that squeeze that I was talking about in XOP. It's just reversed the other direction for the 2 and 10. It's almost like the 2 and 10 and oil are interconnected. So we'll see if oil gets moving higher. This is still above support. Everything looks good here, and we are squeezing into a corner for a potential move higher. I kind of think oil is an opportunity here. After this election, I think it could go higher. OIH up 0.2%. Not, these are ugly charts, though. We have broken the trend lines to the downside. We are holding on. So is the market conditions going to drag us lower where gold and silver go up, interest rates pull on back, oil goes sideways or lower for a period of time, and we go into a recession slowdown? That is a possibility. And some of the charts could signal that. But why the heck are we eating through inventory then? Why is demand making all-time highs? Why does it feel like something is off here? That is not recessionary necessarily. Things just don't line up. Seems weird. And I'll show you that in the next Twitter recap, so to speak. Newcastle coal futures down a little bit, down 0.6%. And I think this looks fantastic, guys. We've been underneath resistance, and you can see that we're right underneath it. So the lows are coming up into it, and we'll see if we can break through. And it's almost like it's waiting for the election to be over with to some degree. Sprott Physical Uranium Trust up a little bit today. Momentum still to the downside. That hasn't reversed yet. And we're still in this big, huge pattern. Uranium futures down just a little bit. It still looks good. And we could come back to this level down here even and do kind of a double bottom, so to speak. Do something like that. I've seen a lot of companies do that. URA down 1.6%. We're back coming towards that support zone. It looks good. We've got a bullish engulfing here. It still looks good to go higher, or at least try to go higher if we stay above this support region to move on up. And I'm basing that off of this bullish engulfing here, and then 2 smaller down candlesticks coming back to support. It doesn't look bad. Looking at URNM down 1%, small red candlesticks pulling on back to support level in this region there. So it looks okay. We'll see if we get support. URNJ doing the same thing. We're back to support, down barely. And I'd like to see this come in here, slow down, put a big bullish engulfing, and then turn higher. That's what I'd like to see. Copper moving sideways, just been holding in this tight, steady, dead period. Copper's opportunity to go higher. We have a falling wedge right before it, and that looks good to move on higher. Hiya. Looking good. COPX down just a little bit, 1.22%. It wants to see copper up. We're basically in the tip of this falling wedge where we kind of squeezed on up here. Iron ore just moving sideways, much like copper. just tracking sideways. Still looks good for a potential move higher. And I think the markets are trying to figure out, is the dollar going to weaken? Are we going to strengthen? Stimulus in China? There's all these things going on. Aluminum still pulling back. Looks like it wants to pull on back here off of resistance again. We are still in this pesky channel. It's a pretty long channel, to be honest, guys. This channel was created in 2022. We've been bouncing back and forth in this channel. It looks like it wants to come back inside of it. Well, we're inside of it, but come back further inside of it, away from the resistance line. Nickel pulling back slightly. I wonder if JP Morgan's got its hands on it, but it could still be a double bottom. We'll see what occurs. Right at that support level, and sometimes these go back like this and slingshot higher. So we'll see if that actually occurs. Move up 0.32%. I think this looks pretty good. It looked like it was going to put in a bullish engulfing, but it didn't close the day strong, a little bit weak. We're still above support, and we broke into the upside. This still looks good to go higher. And we've got these small weekly candlesticks pulling back inside of these big green guys coming up. That generally works its way on up. Emerging markets pulling on back right at the tip there. It's like all of these commodities and even emerging markets are all the same. They're all coming into these tips here, all in the tip. Carry up a little bit, still above that support pattern. We could see a run here if we get lower yields. TAN up a little bit, 1.12% from a real low level. We'll see what this thing does. I don't have any skin in the game in TAN, but this is back to support, and this would be an ideal entry point. It's a double bottom, a breakout of that double bottom, and then a retest. And we're at that retest. That would technically be a good entry point. Lithium down a little bit, down about 1%. It's moving all around on us. A little bit of a gap that's might get filled there. REMX down 2.4%. Back and out. We do have some support in this region here. Looks like I drew that in by hand. I can throw this in here. We're right above that support area. So it's just hanging out where support is. We've got Baltic Dry Index turning today, up 1.45%. Momentum still to the downside, though. It's trying to turn. We'll see if it can do that. XHB, the home builders, down just a teeny bit. And we did see yields. What was it? 10-year was up. What was it? It was up 0.85%. And I do think affordability is impacting this, definitely. So we do have downside momentum. We'll see if we can turn it around. And I think it'll be highly sensitive to interest rates, the 10-year yield specifically. Russell moving sideways, still above support. Nothing really to change or report here, really. SPX down a little bit, 0.33%. I would be looking for a move lower. We've got bearish engulfing. We've got kind of a pattern that's upward facing. It's coming down a little bit. It's not a big pattern, though. So we got to see if there's follow through to the downside. And then you also have support here coming across. NASDAQ also getting a little bit of selling pressure. It is a bearish piercing. But, I mean, the plunge protection team's done its job very well. Bearish engulfing, bearish engulfing, bearish engulfing. Big red candlesticks. We've got another bearish engulfing here, bearish piercing here, breakout of the pattern, somehow still moving up. That looks bearish. Does not look bullish to me. We got rising wedges all over the place. We'll see if we get follow through. So I'll say. SMCI down 32%. I know they released earnings of some sort or something came out. I don't know what came out actually. Yeah, interesting that it's down that amount. Governance issues. The firm is now seeking a new auditor and has delayed its. I don't know. Something's going on there. They're probably faking crap and writing stuff up. Who knows? We've got NVIDIA also down 1.36%, but that's still been pretty strong. Part of me thinks that this is the Batman pattern, perhaps, where you come up and do this. But NVIDIA has been killing it. It's been continuing to go up, so we'll see what happens. Insiders been selling more shares than any time before. CEO's been dropping all the shares that he can. I don't know. Just seems like it fits well together. BTC looks good. We've broken out of this big flag pattern to the upside, and we've got a small down candlestick today. It still looks good to go higher. It's just a small bloody nose. And then Ethereum, we are still in this big pattern chopping sideways. It's a little bit earlier in the move than, say, Bitcoin. But that's what we've got for Ethereum. If you guys like the content, give me a thumb up. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the website. We've got that Mayday coupon code. That Mayday coupon code is 50% off for the first month, and only the first month. If you like being a part of the community, if you like attending the question and answer sessions or listening to them later on, you can also go to the yearly membership. Even if you're already a member, use that coupon code, and you can get a bigger, larger savings if you want to stay for a year. Up to you. We do have a question and answer session coming up this weekend, 5 p.m. on Sunday, Mountain Time. We are going to go over strategies. We're going to go over asymmetry and why it matters so much. We're going to go over kind of the hurdle rate and some of this stuff. So you guys understand kind of what my view is. When I say high risk, what does that mean? And then we'll talk about portfolio position sizing and my thoughts around why I position a certain way. All of this is my opinion. It's all going to be around what works for me and what I've learned throughout my investing. And I'll relay all of that stuff to you guys if you'd like to know it. So it's going to be strategy, asymmetry, why it matters, position sizing, portfolio setup, and my thoughts around it, and why I do things the way that I do it. And some people, I think, find a ton of value out of that. And I can also show you entry points, too, of what looks like good entry points and the risks associated with trying to buy something that is up a lot. And then that also factors into a lot of the things that I account for my position size. So we'll go way into it. We'll talk about all those things. And if that sounds interesting to you, if you guys look at stocks all the time, if you guys try to figure out how to play the market, this could help. This very well could help. And even if you sign up for just a month, it might be good just to try it out and see what it's like. But that's what I've got for today, guys. We'll catch you next time. This is Finding Value.